weaponization of law enforcement against the people of this country by those whose power has been left unchecked has become of major concern. I can show you many examples of this, but let's focus on this story from the tiny state of New Hampshire, ironically known as the live free or die state. Unfortunately, a tyrant deeply woven into many forms of corruption, Governor Chris Sununu, sits at the helm. As part of Biden's American Rescue Plan in 2021, the federal government gave the states the ability to accept millions of dollars in COVID relief funds as long as they agreed to abide by the government's terms. These terms included that states must comply with existing or future directives, both known and unknown, and guidance by the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. They must also comply with Biden's vaccine mandates for all employees of contractors hired by each state. Funds could be used to replace any local private businesses that did not comply with 100% vaccine mandates. Under these terms, states were required to coordinate and consult with HHS to report any business, organization, or individual who did not adhere to these guidelines. States were also to agree to assist the United States government in the implementation and enforcement of federal orders related to quarantine and isolation. All individual test and vax status was to be reported to HHS and the CDC through the state's newly enacted registry. Knowing what we know now, the U.S. government, through this financial incentive and funding, money we know they could easily print, was to ensure mass compliance through punishment, further increasing the power and dependency on the federal government. On October 13, 2021, the New Hampshire Executive Council, led by Governor Chris Sununu, met in public session to discuss his request for $27 million in COVID relief funding for his state. 700 brave citizens in the state of New Hampshire decided to stand together in protest of these totalitarian terms. Of these, only 100 were allowed into the meeting. Those 100 individuals collectively determined, due to the already hostile environment created by Sununu, that they would peacefully and silently protest as to not give the governor any ammunition in which to raise issue against them. These 100 men, women, and children sat quietly in the meeting during the deliberations, held up signs as a reminder of their rights as citizens, and many had their backs turned in protest. These events were captured on film, so you can see that these citizens did indeed protest in silence. Throughout the footage, you can see that their mere presence was annoying to the governor, as he smirks, seemingly texting orders to handle what he deemed to be a problem, despite the intentional silence from the crowd. Moments later, you see New Hampshire state troopers begin to arrest citizens one by one. Their first questionable action was to detain and arrest Therese Grinnell, who, as you can see in the video, sat quietly. They then proceeded to arrest several others, including Albert and Marilyn Todd, who were in attendance with their 5-year-old son. Eyewitness accounts confirm that some of the 9, we now call the Noble 9, were assaulted and attacked while being detained. All were said to be arrested for disorderly conduct. Let's look at the specifics. The first person they arrested, Therese Grinnell, had 3 separate conflicting reports by the New Hampshire State Police. The first in which they claimed she was detained for uttering the word amen. A second report claims she raised her arms in the air while uttering amen. The third claimed she yelled amen out loud. In reviewing the footage, there is no evidence of this. The Todds were arrested while their son watched. Despite the evidence you see on film, the media reported that the protesters got out of hand. At the end of the day, protesters won, and the council rejected the funding, but these 9 individuals suffered the repercussions of being unlawfully arrested and detained. Police laws state that a law enforcement officer is required to follow the United States Constitution when they are performing their duties as peace officers. Can a person like Chris Sununu give an order to arrest individuals just because he was unpleased with their presence? Are police supposed to arrest and detain individuals via these orders despite viewing firsthand that no laws were broken? At what point do officers follow the laws and Constitution versus orders? I ask that we shed light on these situations, as it is our duty as citizens to ensure that our government officials are not allowed to weaponize the police against their citizens, and if they do, they must be brought to justice. Thanks for watching.